Hey survivors, in this video I'll be showing you how to make a simple, compact, highly effective, no cheese, no exploit in-game horde base. It's not a floating base, no force fields or droppers. This just uses intended game mechanics and traps efficiently, can easily be upgraded to the in-game base you see here. Later on I'll show you how to make a starter base using the same concepts and how you can gradually upgrade it to the base shown. Let's check it out. So many times in base building videos, someone will show a quick test of a new base on Horde Day and not really put much stress on it. So for this build, I set this on a day 7000 Horde Day, set it to insane difficulty, and everything's running at nightmare speed with the max is 64 zombies, and I put it in the wasteland. Just so you can see it'll stand up to the actual in-game Horde Day. Not only that, but for the testing I've left it all concrete just to show it's effective at the end game even without steel. As you'll be able to see from this video, I didn't even need any melee weapons or guns. Although if you use them, it's definitely going to speed things up. I just wanted to prove its effectiveness. It's not an AFK base. You will have to repair some electric fences, but I'd call it 90% AFK with minimal intervention without exploits. I'll put this up in the corner if you want to watch it while I explain the base. So recently I was making my turrets and traps guide, and I was thinking about what is the most efficient way to use each trap, and I found a way to use electric fence traps and dart traps together that works extremely well. First up, let me go over how I and most other people normally use electric fences. Typically, it's in several rows like this. While this does work great, it's not the most efficient way. As you can see, each wire is only affecting one block where the wire crosses the path. Now you can get 2 or 3 zombies stuck in a one block area at a time, and they'll pause for a few seconds and then kind of lurch forward ahead to the next wire. Now if they're walking down the actual path of the wire, they're going to constantly be stunned and move in much smaller increments, so you're going to keep them locked down for much longer. Next up is damage. Normally you don't think about electric fences for damage because they don't do much. If you have it going across a single square, most of the time you're only hitting one mob at a time and you're only doing 3 damage per tick. So for example, I spawned 50 soldiers. Most of them are all on 2 lines, all bunched up. If you have 25 zombies standing on the same wire, you're doing 25 times the damage, or in this case about 75 damage a tick. So our goal is to get as many zombies standing on that electric fence as possible. So we're going to start off these fences the max distance apart, and that's 14 blocks. And then we're going to put their path directly down the middle of it. Next up is the dart trap. Similar in principle, you don't want it crossing just a single block. You want it to shoot down a long path so it's always hitting something, and they shoot a whopping 26 spaces. Combine these two and you have a stun lock row of zombies taking dart and electrical damage. You can either let the traps do all the work and save your ammo, or speed up the process and shoot them. And since they're all locked down, you could just line up one headshot after another. Now initially I used pressure plates to save on dart ammo, but I soon found out that a single exploding cop will take them out. So later I tried tripwires, and they do work, but they have a limit of 14 blocks just like the electric fence, which means you have to put them in front of the electric fence, cutting down the distance to 12. Then the dart traps have to go in front, cutting it down to 10. Then I like to put arrow slits over the dart traps to protect them, and it cuts it down to 8. This made for a much smaller killing corridor, and it didn't make it very efficient, so I ended up just removing the tripwires and putting everything on an on-off switch. My original prototype had 3 killing corridors, elevated like stadium seating. Then I decided to make an even bigger one. I color-coded the wiring so you could easily see how it was set up and could toggle the dart traps on and off for each row. I originally had the robotic sledge at the end in case anything got past. Then I tried adding the sledge to the end of the first corridor, and virtually nothing ever made it through. So all the extra rows were completely unnecessary. The only mobs that tended to get through were jumpers, of course, and sometimes dogs. This worked so well I decided to remake it in the wasteland and reduce it down to a single corridor with a generic room to hold a generator and switch, and it looked like this. So I started stress testing a concrete version with 64 enemy day 700 hordes and found that they would pile up at the entrance to the walkway and sometimes go into rage mode and destroy the covers to the dart traps. I also noticed cops at the entrance would blow up and destroy the dart traps too. So I ended up moving the stairs one block closer to me, and it reduced the pileup at the entrance and moved the cop explosions a little further away from the dart traps and their covers. After another couple trial runs, I found that they were still bunching up at the entrance a little, and sometimes they were beating on the stairs. I moved the stairs one more block over, and now everything moves smoothly. Now the cop and demo explosions were moved away from the dart traps and their covers, and they weren't taking any damage now. At first I was wondering what was setting off demos, as electric fences and dart traps won't affect them. I soon found out it was the cop explosions. You may have noticed that the path they walk on is a row of solid blocks with a layer of 1/4-inch blocks on the top and the bottom for extra reinforcement for cops and demos. While this concrete walkway can take a number of cop explosions, it can only take 2 demo blasts before it fails. You can also add plate to the sides if you like for extra protection, like I did in the final version. But if you're at the stage where you're dealing with demos, you should upgrade everything to steel. I found that when I upgraded the center beam and all the sides to steel, it could take a whopping 18 demo blasts before it collapsed to where no zombies could pass. So while you're at the cobblestone or concrete phase, it's best to actually take out the cops where they could set off a demo. Demos themselves are harmless as they pass by with the sledge on their left, so long as you don't shoot their explosives. However, once you're at the steel phase, you can pretty much ignore everything unless it's snuck past the robotic sledge and is at your front door, which is generally just dogs and spiders, but occasionally a regular mob can get through. And I do recommend putting spikes on your roof so you don't have to mess with the birds. Now you will have to repair the electric fence every now and then. The good news is with 2 wires you'll always have one going if one fails, and you'll hear it sparking and can repair it before the other one goes out. You can also refill the darts as needed if you want them doing most of the damage. Remember, if you want the XP from electrical trap kills, you'll need to put points into advanced engineering. If you don't want the traps taking all your XP, you can just let the fences paralyze everything and just do headshots all night. I still wasn't happy that dogs and jumpers were getting past the wires, so I came up with a solution. First, the dogs. The bottom wire wasn't affecting the dogs as it doesn't seem to affect their legs. It has to go through their torso or head. I tried using thicker and thinner blocks on top, but it didn't work. What I found out was instead of using regular blocks in the center bar, I used 3/4 blocks. This lowered them enough to where they would always hit the wire. The trade-off being that you can't put the extra layer of quarter blocks on the top. However, if you're at the steel stage, you're not going to need them. The other added benefit is that sometimes loot bags would block the path of the darts, but with this little trough, if they were laying on their side, the darts would pass right over them. Not only this, but now if they jump up on top of each other and try to run across each other's head, they were low enough to get hit by the top wire. Also, with this setup, the bottom fence post will always need repaired first. Alright, next up the spider jumper. These typically would jump off the beam right into your fighting position. I thought of putting a wire or two in the front, but then I thought instead of adding another row of wires and darts in parallel, why not put them at a right angle, covering up the path to the door? Now if anything managed to get past that first sledge, they'd be stun locked and hit with darts along that path as well. I also made sure to wire them from the outside in so they would easily be accessible for repairs. Now nothing got by. Everything was stun locked all the way up the path to the door. I also think this is a great way to upgrade an existing base. Put the wires over existing walkway or beam that leads to your base and just move your fighting position to the left or to the right. I also put these darts on a separate switch so you can just turn them on or off as needed and not waste ammo, or just use them for emergency situations. You can also make catwalks out to these other dart traps to reload them during Horde night if you want, but I just never felt the need to. So at this point I was finished testing my base, and I could get through day 7,000 hordes without using any weapons and just using traps. I was debating posting this up on YouTube, but I knew the update 2.0 was coming out, and there would be new game mechanics and new enemies, and the base would need new testing against them. I didn't want to release it and then have to revise it in another video, so I waited. Since 1.4 saves would no longer be usable, I did have to remake the whole base from scratch. I pretty much kept it the same, but moved the building back a few blocks so you'd get more effectiveness from the second string of wires and darts. This also required extending the pit so they wouldn't go into rage mode, and required moving the sledge back a little bit. So the new enemies I was most concerned about were the charged zombies, and they're resistant to electricity. So I found out electricity would still affect them, but it didn't stun them as much, and they ran through the wires fairly quickly. Now I knew I wouldn't get all charged zombies for Horde night, and that they'd be fairly spread out. I did want to find an effective way to slow them down, so I came up with this. I removed the 3/4 blocks and alternated between 1/4 blocks and a full block plus the quarter block on top. This not only slowed them down, but it brought any other mob that wanted to cross to a crawl. Now they had to jump in and out of the holes to make any progress, jumping from being damaged by the bottom wire to the top wire, making the base even more effective. Okay, I've now run through several version 2.0 day 7,000 hordes, and one of the more dangerous mobs are the charged and infernal frost claws. When they throw rocks, it'll cause splash damage and it'll go through blocks, so don't be standing near your electric fence when they do. You can actually hide out of line of sight, just like with the cops, and they won't even throw rocks at you, but that's not real exciting. As for the desert spitter, I still haven't seen one on Horde night. Maybe they appear at lower game stages, I don't know. I did summon some just for fun to see how it would go. Just stay out of their line of sight and they won't even spit bugs at you. Even if they do, the bugs only sometimes go through the bars, and when they do, the damage is almost nothing. It's just more annoying than anything. As for the demos, I didn't see any either, and they may have them at slightly earlier game stages now, but from earlier testing, they're no problem if you've upgraded to steel. If not, make sure you shoot those cops. So for fun, I was thinking about what would be the most destructive combo to this base and figured it would be infernal cops and demos. So let's see what happens to the concrete base. Keep in mind, you're never going to see 25 demos and cops at once during a Horde night. And I'll skip ahead here till they start popping. There they go. Oh, it's still not broken. There it goes. After that, I had to see the steel version in action. Alright, we're going to spawn 25 demos and 25 infernal cops. Man, they pile up so good now. And I'll skip ahead to where these pop too. And I forgot to stand out of line of sight. Oh well. Oh, there they go. That held up pretty good. There's still quite a few stragglers down there though. We're definitely gonna need some more though. Still alive. I'm gonna park myself out of line of sight now. I don't think these guys are gonna do it. We'll need some more. Oh, here it comes. That's still standing. That dart trap's exposed now, though. Alright, let's round up these stragglers and see what they can do. Ooh, that did some damage. Alright, we're still gonna need more, though. Alright, this should be good. We've got quite a few falling off the sides with no little bar there. No little panel. Those definitely help hold them in. Alright, I'll skip ahead again until they start popping. There's a witch. Ooh, it's still hanging in there. Alright, let's round these up. They might be enough to do it. This dude has no arms or legs. Ooh, 2 cops and 2 demos together. That's probably gonna do it. I'm guessing it's pretty weak at this point. There we go. A lot of that was cement. Well, as you can see, I didn't upgrade everything to steel, but it did take 100 demos and 100 cops to take it out. Alright, now that you've seen it in action, let me show you how to build it. You can start this very early as soon as you get 2 electric fences and some sort of generator, and you can always add the dart traps later. Later in the video, I'll show you how to integrate this into an already existing typical base. The key pieces of this build are 4 electric fence posts, 4 dart traps, and some sort of generator. If you can get your hands on a robotic sledge, it's going to make it easy mode. First off, make 2 pillars 12 blocks apart. Then add 2 more pillars on each end. Make the steps on the left so the sledges don't set off the demos. Next, start your steps 2 blocks in to the right of the pillar. Finish off the steps and add corner steps so they can climb easily. Next, place an electric fence pole at each end. Wire them together so the end is on the side that you want to access for repairs. Remember that only the end post will need repairs. Add a couple blocks behind it so you can access it for repairs later. Actually, I goofed up. You want to mount these wires horizontally, not vertically. So stick a block behind each one, add another pillar, and then just mount them like you did earlier. Next up, you're going to want to add all 4 dart traps facing in, and it should look something like this. Next up, I like to cover the dart traps with arrow slit 1/2 blocks to help protect them. Next, I like to use a pillar 0.05 meters centered to lead out to my base, but you can use whatever you like. I'm also just making a generic box to hold the generator, but you can see how you could add this to the front of any base and just have the pillar leading to the entrance or to your fighting position. Next up, make the fighting position of your choice and surround it with walls so your generator doesn't get hit by cop spit. Then I like to wire the fence directly to the generator so the electric fence is always on. Then make the connections from the switch to the dart traps so you can turn them on as needed. Now you're all ready to kill things and you can upgrade the base as needed. I'd recommend covering the electric fence posts ASAP and put a roof on your building. A cage on the catwalk from the building to the fence will keep spider jumpers out as well. Putting a solid floor under the base will help keep cops from making craters. I also recommend reinforcing the top and bottom of the bar with 1/4-inch blocks and the sides with plate. Later I'd recommend a 12 block deep pit so if they go into rage mode, they don't destroy your pillars. If you have a robotic sledge, placement is key. Make sure you place it close to the walkway. If you put it too far back, it won't be very effective. Also, I did record this cobblestone tutorial before I upgraded it for 2.0, so I'd recommend moving your base back to the max distance between the fence posts and adding a second walkway for them. If you'd like, you can also change the walkway to the setup that I showed earlier with the blocks. Then just upgrade the cobblestone as soon as you unlock new materials. Other things to note, Robotics Inventor will make the sledge go off more often if you upgrade it. Also, if you add the second walkway, don't point the sledge right at it, point it at an angle between the cage and the pole. Also in testing, I noticed the sledge could force mobs through the scaffolding ladder, so you could block this off completely if you like, or just leave it this way if you plan on meleeing mobs. If you've been watching the video in the corner, you'll see it's almost 4 AM and we've gone the whole Horde night using only traps. Once it hits 4 AM though, I'm going to use the bow to finish them off as it would make this video even longer if I didn't. I hope you've enjoyed this base build. It took me a couple of weeks. Sorry to my regular viewers, I haven't put out a Wasteland video in a while because of this, but I'm going to put one out ASAP. If y'all enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe as I'm just starting out. I'm just going to let this video run until everything's dead. And at the end there'll be a link for my most popular videos. Be sure to check all those out and I'll catch y'all next time.